If anybody's in here, hopefully you can hear me okay. I've been having technical issues like always. And hello, if anyone's in here, how are you doing? Hope your evening's well. Hey, Pink. How's your evening, Pink? Is it going good? Are you relaxing? Hopefully it's not hot as hell where you're at. It's so hot down here, it's sickening. Hey, Murph. How have you guys been doing? It's hot where you're at too, Pink? That's crazy. It's like uncomfortable hot. I'm gonna give it a little second, you guys, for yeah, I was having major technical issues. I had to go and adjust the microphone like in 3 different places, restart the phone. It was crazy. I missed everybody. How's everybody been doing? Good. You love the heat, Pink? Then you should be. Oh my goodness, you should move to Florida. You'd love it down here then. Ugh. It was hot where you are too, Murph. I don't think it would be that bad if it wasn't hot all year round down here. Like it's just so humid and so hot and ugh. Like when you're up north, you at least get a break from it a little bit. Not down here. We've got like hot, hotter, and hell. Oh yeah, Pink, that is where you're at. Now, do you guys get hot like we do here? Like to where it's usually in the 90s in the summer? Where is it? What, Arizona, I think they get hot. Texas, like get up into the hundreds. Ugh, ew. Then the humidity just makes it worse. And then if it rains, which you look forward to, it's hot rain. Tonight on this one that I'm gonna do, you guys, I remember that when I was yeah, okay, Murph, but still it's worth it, right? Like I would rather have a winter where you get a break from it than that's like the only perk I think of being in Florida is you don't have to start your car 15, 20 minutes early and you don't have to de-ice the windshield. I think that's the only good thing. Like if you have to go to the store, well, before COVID, you could just run out of the house and run to the store. You didn't have to like make sure you're bundled up and all that. Other than that, no. I remember when I was up north, I would have just killed to have, what do they call them? A remote car starter where you could just like beep beep and start your car to warm up while you're still inside. I would have killed for one of those when I was up north. But the show I'm gonna do, you guys probably already read the title. I'm gonna do the second follow-up thing that I was gonna do about the condos that collapsed. If you guys want to, I did put, I think there's 4 videos in the description box. I was able to find um one of them where they've got a lot of the 911 calls that were made. It was really hard, but I was able actually to find one where nobody was talking over the phone calls. So you can listen to those. There's one guy that actually called and the building was collapsing in the background and you can hear it. And I don't know if it's just me. You guys will have to go listen to it and give me your opinion, right? Because I get that 911 operators are supposed to keep their cool and get your information and relay it to whoever to come and, do whatever to you or for you or whatever, right? But a lot of the operators were just like, I don't know, they were borderline like mean. I thought it was just my opinion though, but they really were like some bitches. Like some of them were. That's just my opinion, though. I know there was one time, this one lady, I think it was in Texas. I think they have like flash flooding there or whatever, but the lady was delivering newspapers early in the morning and she wasn't paying attention. So she ended up going into like this bridge, like going under an overpass, and it had flooded. And she was in like a newer SUV, and she went into the water and it was getting higher up on her. And I don't know why she didn't go out the back door, like the hatch or whatever. But she called 911 and she's telling the lady, she's like, I can't swim. I'm going to drown. Like, can you please get somebody to come and help me? And the lady on the phone was like, well, ma'am, I bet this will teach you to pay more attention when you're driving. And the lady ended up drowning and dying. It was crazy. Like, some of those 911 operators are horrible. And I know that, like, that's like people at hospitals. You don't want to be there. Like, nobody wants to call 911 either. You don't want to hear, like, a mean person on the other end. But I guess. But that's what the show is going to be about, is a lot of the information that I was able to find out about the building. Isn't that horrible, Murph? I think her family actually sued the city because of that too, if I remember right. Because it was horrible. The poor lady, like, you could tell that she was so scared and she couldn't get out of the windows. I don't remember why. I don't know if they wouldn't roll down. I think it stalled out the car when she went into the water, but there was some reason why she couldn't get out of the back and she couldn't get out of the windows. And she literally drowned while the 911 operator was being a bitch. But I do think that her family sued the city because of that. I remember there was another lady too. You guys might have heard about this one where a woman had, this was a weird chain of events. A woman had like a preemie baby, right? She lives in like a bad section of, I can't remember where she lived at, but she was in a bad, like a crime ridden section of the area. She calls 911 and she's like, my baby quit breathing. I need an ambulance. So allegedly, there was an ambulance like 2 blocks away parked, right? And it was a woman that was driving the ambulance. And so they radioed to her and they were like, hey, you've got to call like 2 blocks away. There's an infant that quit breathing. And she was like, oh, that's a bad area. I'm not going over there. And the dispatch was like, you have to go over there. That's your job. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? There's a baby over there. And she refused to go. And the only ambulance that ended up getting to this baby was like 5 miles away or something. And the baby ended up passing away. So the original one in the ambulance that would not go to the house, she ended up getting fired, and they took her to trial and everything because they were trying to press charges on her. I think she got something. I'll have to look it up so I can let you guys know. I think she did get in trouble. She definitely lost her job. But that was horrible. The baby passed away. And get this, though, twist and weird thing of events, you guys. The mother had actually killed the baby. Like, I can't remember if she suffocated her or what she did, but because of all the attention that the ambulance lady brought to that case, the baby, because she was sick, got extra attention. And then they were able to find out that the mom had, like, literally killed the baby. So that was nuts. But like I said, I'll have to figure that out because I can't remember what happened to the ambulance lady. And the mom at the time, they hadn't arrested her yet, or they just, I'm going to have to look it up and find out now because I forgot all about that case. But anyway, back to the buildings. I don't know if you guys have been kind of keeping up on this. I know that I told you guys I was going to end up trying to stay on top of it, which I did. I know the last live that I did about what had happened, I was surprised, but after it, I was like emotionally drained from that live, like, because it was so depressing and sad and upsetting. It like really bothered me. But I'm going to fill you guys in on a bunch of the details that I was able to find out. And I would have brought it to you guys earlier too, but I've had a lot of appointments I've been going to, and you know, I haven't really had much energy to really go live, honestly. But I missed everybody. And I'm going to be doing my lives more often and everything. I don't want to bore you guys and kind of tell you guys, like, fill you in on what happened, but I've been having like some, you know, issues with my heart or whatever. So, like, I've been going to a ton of appointments with that, and I've got to go out of town to go to the appointments. And I don't know if you guys have ever had a health issue where they test you and put you through all this shit. It just wears on you. And then, you know, they're like, don't be stressed out while you're going through these tests, and make sure that, you know, you relax and take it easy and do this and do that. So I've kind of been taking a break because of that, just to make sure that I can get myself together, because it's scary to have some sort of a heart issue. You know what I mean? That's scary. So that's kind of what I've been going through, but not to get into any detail or whatever. But I'm going to try to, like I said, it's a little bit better now. So I'll be back and bothering you guys like normal in no time. But let's see. Let me start off. Oh, and by the way, for the people that are just coming in here, I've got videos in the description box that you guys can go and look at. One of them is about the 911 calls, and a couple other ones. One of them is where they're hauling away the debris. And then I think the other two, no, ooh, I did put one in there too that shows a lady that was actually going to buy one of the condos a little over a year ago, and she had filmed it when she went to go and look at it and everything. So that's a video, though. Those apartments were nice as shit on the inside. Like, you would not know from the outside of that building that those apartments were like laid like that. Like, you go in the lobby and it's all like decked out in marble, and it was crazy. But and they were really big apartments too. So I mean, they're condos, and I guess you'd have smaller ones and big ones, but the one that she went in, I think, was a 2-bedroom, and it's huge. It was crazy. But they were really nice. It did not look like that from the outside. I'm not even gonna lie. But and then another one of the videos I put in there is of one of the stories I'm gonna tell you guys about. So one of the weirdest things that I found out, and there's a video of it. This is the second video, I think. But there was a young man, right? His grandparents had lived in the condos, and they lived on, I think it was like the 3rd floor. And unfortunately, theirs was the one of the many that had collapsed, right? But what makes his story different from a lot of the other ones that I was able to find out about is that his grandparents, get this, they had a landline phone, right? Which, you know, everybody should know what a landline is, but just in case you don't know, it's like a home phone, like not a cell phone. So the grandson goes on to say that ever since the collapse, right, that he keeps receiving phone calls from his grandparents' home phone, like all the way up until when he did the interview, which was like a week and a half, almost 2 weeks after it happened. And while he was doing the interview, he even played like the phone calls and showed the phone number on the caller ID to prove what was happening, which is crazy. And when the calls would come through, he would answer, right? But the only sound that he said he would hear was like a lot of static, like the white noise or whatever, just a bunch of staticky sounds and you know, random noises. And there'd be nobody on the other end of the phone. And he said this would happen every single time that their line actually called his line. So the grandparents' number would actually show up on his caller ID. And whether it was him or one of his other family members that would answer, there was no talking, only noises and static. That was it. And while their names and number would come up on the caller ID, just like normal if we called each other or something like that, they would try to call it back. And when they would try to call the number back, the only thing would happen is the line was busy. And if someone was on the other line, or if it was like, you know, okay, what would make a home phone busy, right? If you're either on the line, well, no, you used to be able to click over. What would make it busy if okay, it'd have to be off the hook, right? If you call somebody's home phone and it's busy, it'd be off the hook, if I remember right. But the whole thing is like nobody who was calling from their line. That's what makes it so weird. And like I said, he wasn't just blowing smoke up the reporter's butt either, because he showed on his phone the dates, the times, everything where they were calling his phone. And that was creepy as heck. I was like, what in the world? I want to know what you guys think about that too. Like, do you think that's even possible? Like, it's possible because he proved it, but like from what I know about a landline, which isn't really that much, but the features that you can do and stuff like that, I just don't understand how in the world that would happen, because if their apartment collapsed and they had a home phone in there, even if it went off the hook, how is it dialing him multiple times? Or even if they call it back, how is it playing static? And I think if I remember right, if you had a landline and say you got a flood or a hurricane, that would take your home line out, but that would be if the phone, like the phone poles were messed up. I don't know. I just need your guys' opinion on that because it's weird as shit. And I put the video in the description box so you can go watch it. But let's see. That one was weird though, I'm telling you. And he shows his phone and everything, so you guys have to go watch that one. But another story that I had heard about had a little bit more of a positive outcome, but there was a guy that was in his 30s that lived in the condos, right? And the night that the collapse happened, he happened to be with his girlfriend, and he was going to go home later that night. They didn't live together or anything, but he was going to go back to the condo, and it was raining, I guess, really bad that evening. And they ended up getting soaked from the rain. So his girlfriend, you know how women are, we're all like, oh, you're soaked, just stay longer, right? So she asked him to stay the night with her so she could dry his clothes and all that good stuff. So he ends up staying the night with her, and the next morning his phone's like blowing up early in the morning, and people are asking him, was he in the building and is he okay? And he's like, no, I didn't go home last night. And then somebody had told him what happened, and his girlfriend started to, like, I guess, shake because she was so scared, right? And she was like, maybe we should go down there and see what's going on. And when they went down to the condo building, they couldn't believe what they saw. They said that they were just like in awe, because he should have been there. Like, the rain and the girlfriend telling him to stay was the only reason why he wasn't there. And he was really shook up telling his story, which was crazy. I can't imagine being like that. um and then let's see. Oh yeah, I got to tell you guys about, okay, um I want to say it was probably about a week after the first show that I did on this. um I was outside and my neighbor ends up stopping by, right? And he's like 80, like easy. He's pretty old, but he's really nice. But he had asked me, like, did I see what was going on? Have I heard about it? And of course I said yes. And he starts telling me how his dad had owned a condo in that building, right? And that when his dad had passed away, that he ended up willing the condo to my neighbor and I guess his brother. And I'm just kind of looking at him like with my eyes wide open, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, like, don't tell me anything bad type of shit. And he's like, well, he goes on to tell me that his brother and I can't remember if it was cousin or an uncle, something like that. His brother and somebody else had some business to do down in Miami. And I'm looking at him like, please don't tell me this. Please don't tell me this. And he says that, yeah, they were down there in the condos, staying there when it collapsed. And he's like, he hasn't been able to get a hold of either one of them, right? And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, what are you going to do? And he was telling me about how he was trying to get info on the phone and he wasn't really able to get much because they're just basically telling people like wait and see what happens, because they were treating people like they were missing. And by the way, remember, he's like 80 some years old, and he had asked me if he has to go down there, could I take him? And of course I told him like, yeah, no problem, because you don't want him on the road driving because of his age. And by the way, this is like not on the topic, but let me tell you guys about a little bit about Florida, which you probably already know, but a lot of people down here that are driving that are old, they can't see, they can't hear, they cause tons of accidents on the damn road every day. But if any of you out there have like an elderly relative, and this is just a little bit of advice, um, offer to drive them around if you can. Like if they got errands to do, or now what, you can get your shit delivered to your house. That way it keeps them off the road, because I know that a lot of older people, they don't want to bother like us because we're younger and ask us for favors and stuff. So instead of asking, they'll drive to the store or get on the road, and knowing that they damn well shouldn't be on the road. And I don't know, just kind of like, if you got an older relative and you know they shouldn't be driving, like every now and then, if you got time, just be like, hey, you want me to grab you something from the store? Because that'll like keep them off the road, because that shit is crazy down here. um they will drive all, I'm telling you, it's just nuts. I don't even know how they keep their licenses that long, but I guess it happens. But anyway, when I was talking to my neighbor, I told him, yeah, definitely, like I would help him if he needed it. And he said that if they called him, that he was going to go down there, because he said it would just kind of make it worse for him to just be down there and not be able to do anything. And I had asked him, I was like, well, even though you haven't been able to get a hold of him, hold of them, they could still be okay, right? Like I was like, maybe, I don't know, they went back to, I forget where up north they were from or whatever. And he was really honest. He was like, no, I'm not going to fool myself. They wouldn't have been, they'd be pulling out more injured if people had survived it. So unfortunately, it did not look good for him. I actually haven't seen him since. I think he's actually been gone. So I don't know if he's down there or what happened. But after he left, I was just like, my jaw was on the floor. And, I felt so bad. Like I prayed for him and everything. I mean, that was like a shock. It was crazy. I felt really bad for him though, especially being that old. Um, there was another guy, and this story was really sad, but there was a man that had recently moved to the building, and he had bought the condo, and he moves in, and he had recently lost both of his parents to COVID-19. Not one parent, but both of them to COVID. And to make it worse, he just lost his wife from cancer. So he loses both his parents, lost his wife to cancer, and that's why I guess he packed up from where he was from. I wasn't able to find out where he was from. And he moved to Miami, and he ends up buying this condo, to kind of like start over. And of course, he's one of the people that ended up, passing away from the collapse. And that sucks, because I was like, that poor guy. I can't imagine that. You go through losing your parents, you go through losing your wife, you try to start over, and then that happens. Like, how some people say, if it's your time to go, right, that it's just going to happen. Like, no matter how old you are, no matter what kind of financial situation you're in, no matter who you know or don't know, it's just going to happen. But stuff like that makes me wonder, because that poor guy, like, nobody deserves to die, but like, well, there are some really asshole people that, you know what I mean, like mean people or murderers and stuff. But a guy like that poor guy, I just felt so bad. Um, and it even gets worse on top of that. This is so horrible. Like, I'm not gonna lie, you guys, I cried when I saw this, because okay, the man loses his parents, okay? He loses his wife. And then to make it even worse, like you couldn't even make the shit up, his daughter and his son-in-law were visiting him to try to cheer him up. And they were in the fucking apartment with him when it collapsed, and none of the three have been heard from. So, like, that is just such a shitty situation. His poor relatives, I can't imagine. That's what, 2 funerals for the parents, 1 funeral for your wife. Then you got his daughter and the son. Jeez, that's just horrible. But that poor guy, and his daughter and his son-in-law, and they were there just to, cheer him up and help him out because of the shit he went through. That's the type of shit when I'm like, it makes me wonder about, you know what I mean? Like, why did they have to pass away like that? Like, that's just horrible. Oh, and I can't remember. Somebody asked me on my last live, did I know the ages of the people that were in the building that had, that were missing or passed away or were identified? The ages actually went from an infant all the way up to 90, or like a little bit over 90. So there were definitely all ranges of ages that were in there. It wasn't just like an old people home or like, grown-ups. It was definitely like children and everything else. So I did find that out. Um, and I do want to talk a little bit about the rescuers and the pile, as it was being called, which is that bunch of concrete shit that they're standing on forever. All of the debris and everything. They actually have all of the debris hauled away now. It's just a big square where the building used to be, and it was actually 22 million pounds of debris that they were able to haul away. And that's a lot. 22 million pounds. That's crazy. And I do have a video. The only one I was really able to find where they were hauling shit away was the one that they had a bunch of the cars and everything on some semis, and that was the only video I could really find where they were actually hauling debris away from the pile. But yeah, 22 million pounds. And the rescuers definitely deserve credit because of what they were doing. They were working 12-hour shifts on and 12 hours off. Some were working more than that. Ooh, and how about the Israeli military? Like a group even came over to help because I guess, and this is kind of cool, right? When you've got, like, what do you call it? You've got friends in high places when you can do shit like this, right? I guess somebody that lived in the building had made a phone call and they were like Israeli, and they actually had part of the military come over here because, whoever they knew somebody who knew somebody. And so an Israeli military group came over to help the regular rescuers. Um, and it was kind of cool because they didn't need them to be on the pile to help people because they had plenty of help for that. But they actually ended up discovering part of the debris where they were about to remove was the only thing holding up that remaining part of the building that they ended up taking down by demo. So basically, when they were rescuing the people from the apartments that were still standing right after the collapse had happened, any time at all, that little piece, I guess, that column that was holding up that whole other side of the apartments, it could have just tink and fell over and would have killed all the rest of the people that were in there and probably some rescuers too. So it's crazy that they had found that. They were, and like I said, it was just like a column, and the column wasn't even put together good. Like, I don't know how that thing was holding up the whole other side of that building. But that was a good thing they found that out because, if they would have removed it even after they got the other people out of there, it could have collapsed on them or, the rescuers and everything. So that group did a really good job of surveying, the pile and everything. And they were also keeping an eye on the fires that were burning underneath it and all that good stuff. So it was kind of cool that they helped out. And then especially the way that the collapse, like the way it collapsed down. I don't know if you guys saw the video of where they actually demoed the other part of it down, but it basically just collapsed like floor to ceiling, floor to ceiling. So it's like boom, 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 boom. It goes down like, at pancakes. And it basically like squishes everything in between of it because of the weight of it. And you guys know how heavy concrete can be. That's what makes it so bad though, the whole thing, right? Because there was no warning for it and everybody was probably asleep. even if you weren't asleep, like you would have had no time to react at all. Like I said, if some people are in here that didn't hear me earlier, if you go to the video I put in the description box of the 911 calls, there's a man and you can hear the building collapse in the background. And that is just wild. Like you want to turn it up a little bit so you can really hear it, but it's chilling to listen to. Also, those poor rescuers, by the way, I don't know how well you guys were following it, but down here in Florida, it's hurricane season. So there was a hurricane that they were worried, was going to kind of hit well, we don't ever know, right? They build up and they build up and they build up out in the ocean. And then they try to watch them and see, what category they get to before they hit the shores of whatever part of Florida. Sometimes they miss us. I've actually seen hurricanes that'll go up past Florida and turn around like, oh shit, I forgot. And then they'll wipe us out. So like hurricanes are very, very unpredictable, just kind of like tornadoes. You just don't really know. You can't plan what they're going to do. But it was raining a lot off and on, and it was really dangerous for those rescuers to be on the pile like that because everything's just balancing together and they're trying to cut all types of stuff to get people out of there. And I've got it in here. I know I wrote it down. Hold on, you guys, because there was a rescuer that actually fell because it was slippery. And he fell. Oh, I got it. I know I wrote it down. Ah, yes. He fell 25 feet, you guys, while he was working. Like, he literally slipped after the rain and fell 25 feet. So, a lot of people don't think about that. But when you have a rescue mission like this or a recovery mission, the rescuers, they're almost, in as much danger as, people that would have been on the other side of the building because they can fall through that debris. They can get trapped under there. It's really dangerous for them to be on top of there. And they go down into voids and stuff like that too. So they get up under it and everything too. When they get in those car garages, because they think that there's voids down there where people are alive. But anyway, with the hurricane thing, right? They tried to watch this hurricane that was approaching. I can't remember the name of it. I want to know who names the hurricanes, by the way, because they name them the stupidest names I've ever heard of. But they kept an eye on it, and they ended up hiring a forensic engineer that was going to find out or do an investigation about why the collapse had occurred, right? And this guy was really skilled. Like, he worked on the Pentagon when it was hit on 9/11. He definitely knew what he was doing. He's definitely got credibility under his belt. So, oh yeah, let me talk about that a little bit too, because I don't know if you guys have followed it. And seriously, hold on. Can you guys still hear me? I gotta put my phone on do not disturb. Scammer likely. That's a shame. Can you guys still hear me okay? Okay, thank you, King Twin. All right, so let me see. Okay, I was talking about the forensic guy. If you guys were following this, I want to kind of get you guys' opinion on it also. Like, why do you guys think that it collapsed in the first place? So far, from what I've been able to, watch and read and kind of snoop around and see, because it's probably going to take a year or two before they let out any kind of report about what actually happened. Which kind of sucks, but it always takes a while. Like if you guys have ever watched, like when a plane crashes, they have to rebuild the plane and get the black box and figure out what happened. And it always takes like 1 or 2 years. King Twin insurance money, yeah, right. Like, well, I'll talk about that too. The money that's a whole nother cluster F. But it was kind of looking like to me like a structural failure. I kind of said that before when I did the other live, but like I said, we're not going to know for a while what's actually facts. But oh yeah, listen to this, you guys. That reminds me of the lady. There was a lady, she was a model, I guess, and she was out on her porch, and her porch faced the pool, which faced the ocean. So she had the ocean view in the back where the pool was. And she called her husband, I guess, at 1:30, and I think the collapse happened at like 1:31 or some shit like that, like really, really close. And she told him that it looked like the pool was collapsing. And I guess right after she said that, her phone went dead, which of course means that, you know, she unfortunately collapsed when the building collapsed. But you know, and that, oh God, I hate talking about this. I can't wait till I'm done with it. It's so like sad and depressing. Um, and unfortunately, the more days that went by, as you probably were seeing, I know that that's all they were putting on the news down here. Everybody was talking about it. It was everywhere. Um, but they weren't pulling out anybody. It was just, you know, bodies at that point. They ended up pulling out, two younger children too. And that's got to be really hard. Like I was talking about, people don't really think about the rescuers and stuff. Can you imagine being a rescuer and having to sit there and deal with, like, you know, pulling out dead children and like all that? Mm-mm. And especially the way like any kind of collapse treats your body, like it's not going to be pretty. But mm-mm. And I guess I'm trying to remember, was it for yeah, I think they had counseling services that were actually on the site because, you know, if people would break down and stuff like that. But I think it was for the families and the rescuers. I'm pretty sure it was, if I remember right. But, um, you know, like I said, I don't care how kind of what would you call it? Like a hard ass. I don't care how much of a hard ass you can be. Like, this would definitely mess with your emotions. Like, if you start reading about these people's stories and shit like that, like, it's really depressing. But, it's just heartbreaking what happened to them. Like I said, they had no warning. It's just, that's sad. And that would affect people. Like I said, when you're dealing with children, um, and it's always sad when children pass away, to me anyway, because they don't get a chance to even do anything. Like, they never got to go to like high school, they never get to fall in love, they never get to get married. Like, it's just sad. Um, but hopefully they all do counseling and stuff, because even if you don't think you need it, you definitely need it. Because if you bottle shit like that in, it messes with you after a while. Um, and that's another thing too. God forbid that any one of you guys is ever in a situation like that where you need counseling for anything. People try to look at you like you're weak. Like in the military, they do that. Like if you ask for help or if you're talking to somebody, you're like, you know, you're a pussy or whatever. That's not true. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, just go get help. Because, you know, people can talk all they're going to talk, but it's going to be your life that ends up screwing up. You know what I mean? Um, okay, now let's talk about the lawsuits and everything, right? Okay. Uh, there are actually, and this is being kept really quiet, so I can only say allegedly what I was able to find about it. But the lawsuits, there were lawsuits that were being filed, I think 4 and 5 days after the collapse actually happened. So I don't know how they can do that. Um, because you have to have somebody to sue if you're suing someone, right? And the thing about the lawsuit that allegedly has been filed is that it's a $5 million lawsuit, and they're alleging it's a couple of the victims' families together, right? And the suit alleges that the building's owners, quote unquote, failed to secure and safeguard the property and the lives of the people inside, right? But it's weird to me because how do you do a lawsuit like that? Like, how does that work exactly? Because if the building is a condo building and everybody that knows about any kind of condo building, or if you've lived in a condo before, they are, everything that comes with one person in there kind of goes for everybody. Like, it's like, if you sue, who do you sue exactly? Like, because a condo building's kind of collective. um like, who do you decide to sue and who do you decide not to sue? I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see about that. But I do know that with condos, right, they vote for like a council, or I don't know what you would really call it. um but they have like a homeowners association or whatever they do. And that brings me up to the repairs that were said to be needed from the inspection in 2018 that were going to cost millions of dollars. When they did that inspection in 2018 that all the news channels and everything keep talking about, it was estimated to cost millions. And because the repairs have to be paid by the owners of these condos, which are the people who live in the building, they were having issues with how they were going to break up the money, like who was going to pay what. And I'm pretty sure more details will come out, and you guys know that I'll be on top of it. But um I'm wondering, like, who are they going to sue, if anybody, because it's not owned by the city, it's owned by the different people that live in there. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. Ooh, also, you guys, this is horrible. This is so horrible. This whole situation is fucked. But anyway, there's like fake GoFundMe's popping up because of this, which is not really that surprising, but it kills me when people can actually try to profit off of something bad like this. Like, you got to have no conscience. You really do. Um, but there's an actual legit website. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's an actual, like, a .com, um, that's dedicated to Surfside, where people can donate if they want to. And they've raised like a whole ton of money, so that's good to help the families and everything. Like I said, that's great news. But yeah, there's fake GoFundMe's popping up. Um, and I'm glad that the families will at least be able to have some sort of, compensation, even though it's not worth your loved one. But I don't know. It doesn't really. I'd rather have my loved one, but at the same time, it's better than nothing, I guess. Oh, let me see. What else? Oh, another thing about the rescuers too, you guys. They didn't have to do this, but they were doing it. While they were going through the debris, if they found like any kind of pictures or jewelry or anything like that, they were actually like putting them to the side so that one day they can give them back to the families, so they have something from the people that passed away, which I thought was really cool of them to do, because they didn't have to do that, but I thought that was really neat. Because I know that if I had a relative that passed away in something like that, or at all, if they had a ring or a necklace or even pictures, you know what I mean? Something like that, it'd be good to have. So I thought that was kind of cool. Um, let's see, what else? Ooh, this is okay. This is kind of sad. Well, I mean, it's sad, but this is why this shit is so depressing to talk about. I'm gonna be so glad when I'm over it. Ugh. But I think it was the first week, I think like the fifth day. Um, don't hold me to that, give or take a couple days. But remember how I told you guys last time they had like the dogs out there, and they had this equipment that they could stick down into the rubble, and it's so high tech that it could actually detect a heartbeat, or any kind of a whisper or breathing. So they could kind of find people if they were under there and were still alive, right? Well, I guess allegedly they had heard a woman's voice while they were listening one day, and they were able to get kind of close to her, to where they could actually hear her talking without the sound detector. And she was able to tell them that she was next to a bed and that her parents were somewhere close to her. um I guess she was really, really like they could barely hear her, and she was really weak, understandably, when she was talking. And when they were trying to pinpoint her, they could hear her breathing like if she wouldn't be talking. So they were able to get really close down in a section of the car garage where, through trial and error, they kind of narrowed down a spot behind a wall of concrete that they thought that she was at. Now, of course, while the rescuers are trying to narrow where she's down and, hopefully get her out of there, the fires at the same time were getting worse. And if you guys were keeping up on this or watching the news, they were talking about the fires that were burning, and a couple of them they couldn't get to put out. So, and you've got to think about it. There's furniture, there's, all types of stuff in there that's burning, clothes, just bodies, like, oh God. But, it's a breeding ground for fire. So they were starting to cut the concrete where they thought that she might be. And since the fires were getting so close to where they were at, they were unable to be controlled at the time. And the rescuers were ordered to move away until the fires were under control, right? And unfortunately, they ended up losing, I want to say it was about a half a day. Yeah, I want to say it was. It was almost like an evening and like all night long. They missed like a good 12 hours or something like that because of those damn fires. When they were able to return to the spot, they're like running back over there. And unfortunately, they couldn't hear her anymore. There were no more sounds. They couldn't hear her breathe or anything. So, unfortunately, they might have been able to try to rescue somebody, but, they lost her. But so that sucks. But I know that there was a lady on the interview that I was watching, and she was just in tears, like the rescue lady, because she, I guess the fire didn't technically reach there, but they still had to be safe and get away from the spot. So, but that would be gut wrenching. I don't know. I might have stayed there and still tried to do it. But then what if you do if they're like, oh, you're fired, get off the site? You know what I mean? So it's like, what do you really do? Do you try to stay there and save her and risk your own life and maybe your job? Or do you listen to your chain of command? Like, that's the shit that's like, what do you do, right? Um, but like I said, there was definitely a couple people that were screwed up by that. And when they were working on this debris pile too, there were two groups of different people. I'm trying to remember how many people were in each group. Oh, I can't remember. Dang it. But there were two different groups, right? One group was on one side, the other group was on another side. And unfortunately, one day, a group had ended up finding a child. It was a 7-year-old girl. And she ended up being the daughter of one of the firefighters that was on the team that was working on the other side. So he didn't work on the team that had found her, but when they did locate her, everybody stopped doing everything, and they had the father walk over, and he ended up putting his firefighter jacket on her with a flag, and they walked her off the site. I guess her uncle was working at the site too, so her uncle and her dad ended up walking her off, and they did it. I don't know if you guys remember, like September 11th, but they all lined up and everything, and they were able to walk her to the ambulance. But that was sad that like the one firefighter guy that worked on there, he was looking for his own child. Like, I can't imagine that happening to my child. That would be horrible. The only thing I think that might have been a little bit good for him is that he didn't find her, like the other people did, and they covered her up. So, oh, that's the thing too. Um, I've got to find it if there is one. I want to say that I saw one maybe a week ago where one of the news channels had actually tried to put the pictures of the people that had passed away and like their names and everything. But I haven't been able to find it since. But if I do find it, I'll let you guys know about it because, then you can kind of put like a face to the names and everything to make the people kind of real. Because when you think about it, I don't know, I might be weird and people don't think like this, but if you think about like 100 people, right? Like 98 people, and put them in the room that you're in right now, that's a lot of people. Like, that's not just like 20 people, 10 people. Like, that's a lot of people that died. That's the stuff that I think about, though. It makes it sad. But all the stories are sad. I'm not trying to say one over the other one's more sad. That one guy's story, though, that was horrible. But they're all sad. But um it's upsetting. All right, guys, let's see. On the okay, that hurricane that I was telling you guys about, they ended up having a meeting, and I think they had about 2 meetings, and the governor was like, "Oh yeah, we're thinking about bringing down the remaining side of the apartments or the condos, sorry, because if the hurricane hits Florida, it's going to bring down, the other side of the condos, and it could like spread it all over the city, you know what I mean? And that's evidence and all this and that." So they were having the debate on whether to demolition, like controlled demolition, the rest of the building down, or kind of just wait and see what was going to happen with the hurricane, whether it would hit it or not. So you've got that hurricane approaching really quick, right? And the possibility of that thing bringing it down, like, I mean, it would have been really easy for it to, especially when the Israeli people had found out that it was only being held up by like a partial thing of concrete. I don't know how that thing stood as long as it did, actually. But after a few meetings that they had, they ended up making the decision to, execute the order to bring her down. And like I said, it was more of a precautionary measure to protect everyone who kind of lives in the area and the workers. Um, oh, and by the way, just so you guys know, because this bothered me, right? I had thought of like pets and stuff that might be left in the building. And just so everybody knows, the rescuers ended up using drones, and they were able to go in and around the apartments to look for pets, and they went in critical areas, of the standing parts of the building, looking for, if anybody, people were in there or pets were in there. So luckily, allegedly, there were no pets. Everybody got their pets out. But you guys know I had to find out what happened to the pets. And if they were evacuated when they got the people out, because, I couldn't. I'd be like, you have to take me and my dogs or not at all. But they ended up making the decision to bring her down because, that side that was left standing could be, if a hurricane would have came through and took it down, it could have messed up the houses around the area, the other apartment buildings around the area. It could have caused a lot more casualties. So they made the decision to bring it down. And it could even hit, yeah, like it, yep. There are houses around there too. It's not just, I'm trying to remember, because they've got a bunch of, you guys know what a coast is like. Anything near the water, they've got those high rises. But there are houses down there also. So yeah, it could have definitely damaged some people's houses and everything too. So that's why it was critical to bring it down. So when the green light was given to bring down the building, which I was surprised how quick it happened, right? Because a regular controlled demolition, if you rush it, it could take like 3 weeks, 2 weeks, like a while. And they did this like in hours. I mean, I was surprised. Whatever team ended up rigging up that demolition, like they need a pat on the back because they did it really well, um, and really quickly. But once they gave the order, yeah, it was less than 3 days that they ended up giving the order, and they ended up bringing the building down. So that was crazy. Um, Oh, and hey, I was able to find this out too. I didn't hear this on the news or anything, but I was able to look at the footage and figure this out. I was wondering what were they going to do with the debris, the pile that was already there, where they were searching and getting the bodies from. If they bring down that other side of the building, isn't that just going to topple on top of the pile they already have? So they, like I said, the demo team that did this deserves a big time paycheck because they were able to bring it down to where it barely even touched the the pile that they already had, and they put a big, huge, like a kind of like a, oh, I don't know how to explain it. They had a tarp over it, but underneath the tarp they had like a real thick, rubbery, like if anything fell on it, it would kind of bounce off. So it was kind of like a real thick layer of like a trampoline type of material, and then they had a big tarp over that. So they would know exactly where their pile and where they were at before they had left and everything, because of course they couldn't work on, the site while they were bringing the building down. So that was a good thing. When the debris fell, it didn't fall onto the already debris area, and they could clear it away easily, because knowing that in that part of the building there's no bodies, there's no pets, they don't need it for any kind of evidence or anything, actually. So they could just come in there and bulldoze that shit away like the next day. It's not a crime scene. Um but I was glad they did that, because doing it that fast, I was wondering, like, are they going to take precautions to cover up the pile, or are they just kind of winging it at this point? Because I couldn't believe how quick that was over. But oh yeah, that happened too. There were a lot of people that wanted to go back in their apartment before they demolished them, and they wouldn't let them. I remember that too. So they couldn't go back in there and get anything out of their apartments at all, like nothing at all. Like if you had gold in there, oh well, like nothing. Um, and that's kind of shitty too, and why I said it was kind of a good thing that the rescuers are kind of going above and beyond and getting pictures and stuff like that, because um, they wouldn't let people in there to get your family heirlooms or memories or anything. So it's kind of cool that if they found them, they were keeping them to give to people. And now, picture the other side of the building is down. So now you've got the whole building completely down. They're bulldozing away the side where people were rescued from, because it's not considered a crime scene. And the rescuers are still working on the actual pile, the first one. And after they brought the building down, the other part, I guess it opened up a certain area that they weren't able to get to before. And they ended up finding like a bunch more bodies. I didn't hear a bunch of details about it, but they were able to, I guess it opened up some sort of a, not like a space or anything, but it opened up where they could get in between the floors. The firefighter guy was saying that before, when that building was up, it's attached to like the other side in a certain spot, so they couldn't get to there. And when they cleared it away, he said you could almost see like a sandwich, like in between all the floors. It was crazy. So they ended up finding a bunch more bodies that way. Ugh. But again, if you guys were following this, if you kind of noticed, the Sunday night that they brought the other part of the building down, it was like the next morning, or I think like that Tuesday morning, the body count shot up like by like 12 people. And that's why. They were still hoping too that there were air pockets that were created so survivors could be in there. But, you know, like I said, the way it looked after it happened, there were not going to be survivors. I'm glad they got the one boy out, and the mom and her daughter. But let me see, what else do I have to talk about? Oh, but that's the thing too. When I was telling you guys that the floor is kind of pancaked together, right? If you've got a little bit of warning beforehand, you might be able to run and hide or try to get to a certain spot where it's not collapsing on you or anything like that. But they didn't have any time. So, there wasn't going to be a bunch of people crowded into like the corner of like a certain part of the car garage. It just wasn't going to happen. Like those, anyway. And they had finally switched the mission too, from rescue to recovery. Not that long after I had done my show, and I was bitching about it because I think I had talked about in my last live about why aren't they switching it to recovery, because when you're actually doing the rescue, you've got to take time to put that little thingy down there. You got to listen for people. You got to put the dogs in. Every time you think you might have a person, you have to stop everything. Both teams have to stop. And I think if I remember right, there were like 80 people on each team. Like it's a big deal. So when they're doing just recovery, it gets done way faster. But I think, like I said, they wanted the families to kind of have hope, and I think we all had hope, honestly, that there were going to be more survivors, but it didn't turn out that way. But once they switch it to recovery, also instead of rescue, they're able to cut out a lot larger sections of concrete and kind of chuck them to the side. You know what I mean? When you guys see them do that bucket brigade thing that they do, that's so that they can find people, and you don't hurt anybody or anything. That's the real gentle type of thing. um because when that happens, you end up getting you like turn gray like the concrete because of all the dust and everything. So it's not what you think, where you would just see a person. It's almost camouflaged, so they really have to look. So they got to use baby fingers and do that bucket brigade thing. But once they took it and switch it to recovery, they can take big chunks of concrete away, bulldoze spots away. It goes by a little bit quicker. So that's why if you were watching the news or the articles about it, it went boom, boom, but like day by day by day, they were finding like more bodies, and it was going way quicker. And that's why. Um, ooh, that's another thing that happened too. How about they ended up finding a pet cat alive? I don't know if you guys saw this, but the cat was actually getting a lot of clout on news channels, but he was actually found alive wandering around the debris pile, right? And I was able to find out his name is Binks, and he lived with one of the families that lived in Unit 904. And if you guys remember in the other live, I talked about the mom and the daughter that were pulled out alive, but they were seriously injured, like really bad. Like the mom had like everything from like her pelvis down was broken. The girl wasn't hurt that bad, but the mom was just, she got put through it. But the mom and daughter that I talked about in my other live that were pulled out alive but injured, the husband ended up passing away in the collapse, but the cat that was found was their husband or her husband's cat. So they found the cat. The cat's name is Binks. He was wandering around the debris pile. I guess he was probably hiding from people at first. I don't really know why they didn't see him right away. Maybe he could have been down in the pile or something like that. That's creepy. But you know how cats are. Like cats they get into places they're not supposed to. Kind of weird. But I don't know why I think about shit like that. But um the mom and the daughter are getting better, which is really good. I know the mom had to have a lot of surgery done and everything, but I think it would help them after hearing about finding the dad's cat, because with them finding it, even though they lost, she lost her husband and unfortunately, the little girl's dad, at least they have his cat, you know what I mean? So that'll kind of console them a little bit, I guess. They can have something. Um oh, and that's another thing that happened. Uh Before the cleanup was finished, right? And they had everything out of there. One of the lead people, one of the foremen that was working on the site, he tested positive for COVID-19, and he was vaccinated back in March or whatever, but he ended up testing positive. I don't think he was sick. I think they just ended up testing him and he came up positive. So they had to go and test everybody else to make sure nobody else was positive. And that was crazy too. It was like the random shit that was happening every day. But I don't know. I don't even want to get started on COVID. I really don't, especially being down here in Florida. Oh, God, don't get me started on that. Let me see. What else did I want to tell you guys about? Okay. Now, here's the thing. Now that the property is excavated, right? It's just blank. There's just like a cement hole in the ground. Now that that is like that, right? And this is happening really quickly. This happened like 2.5, 3 weeks ago. The price for this beachfront property, y'all, is $100 million. That's crazy expensive, but it's beachfront property, suburban area Miami. $100 million they're selling that property for. Um, I mean, I get it, I guess. It actually went in front of a judge to get the okay to sell the property. The judge said that he wanted all the money, the $100 million, to go to the families. But some people aren't in agreement with that. They're still fighting over this because the thought of selling it. Some of the victims' families want the land to be like a memorial site. But the judge is actually like, people in Florida are assholes, but the judge is not budging on it at all, you guys. He's like, no, we're selling it. It's going to the families. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, he's not budging on his idea at all. What do you guys think about that, though? Do you think that financially it's okay to sell the property? Morally, it's not right to sell the property, right? Or do you think maybe, like, okay, what they did with like the Twin Towers, right, where they made the memorials but yet they put up a new building? Like, what do you guys think about that? That'll probably be what they'll try to do, right? Make a memorial there but still put like a high rise on it. But a lot of people feel like, almost 100 people passed away right there, so that's like sacred, you know what I mean? So I don't know how they're going to end up figuring that out. But yeah, the judge is not trying to hear any of that shit. um and again, like I told you guys about the 911 video that I've got in there, I don't know if you guys listened to it or found it. There's videos out there too where you can see where the police, like the police cameras on their body cameras or whatever. There's a couple of those videos floating around too that you guys can look up and watch. Those are kind of crazy also to watch. You can find them if you dig hard enough to where there's not other content creators talking over the videos. You just gotta kind of fish through it and look for it. But those are the best. You really don't want to hear somebody talking over it because you can't really hear. I know one of them was really messed up because the police officer had gotten there and they kept on saying like, the building's gone, the building's gone, and like you could hear people like screaming. It sounded like they were coming from the collapse part, but I wasn't there, I don't know. But right after it happened, like the dust hadn't even settled yet, and it's crazy. But if you're interested in it, the videos are out there. And I will say this too, if you guys, if something triggers you, like people screaming or anything weird like that, don't look at it. Like, don't listen to it because it will trigger your ass. Like if so if you're squeamish or anything like that, don't listen to them because they are messed up. I know that there was some people that were giving their statements and everything to the police that were on the street when it had happened. I think one lady actually, I'm trying to remember. I think one of the women on the phone calls was actually on her balcony and she was upset. She was like, "You've got to come and rescue us." Like, because they thought their side was going to collapse too. And that was sad. I'd be scared as shit. She was on there. I'm trying to remember what other calls were on there. I know there was another guy that called and he said that they were going down the stairs, the stairwell that was left, him and his family, and you could hear them in the background. And then when he got to the garage to try to get out, the garage was underwater. And he was like, "We're trying to find a way out. We're trying to find a way out." And he ended up finding some sort of a crack somewhere or something, and they were able to climb like out onto the rubble and outside, which was awesome. Another one though, the guy had said that they were trapped and they couldn't get outside because the garage was flooded and they were going back to their apartments. Now, the only thing I don't know though, he would have had to have been one of the survivors because But it's weird how it's timed. Like on the video, it tells you what time that the calls were made. Oh, I don't remember if that was before. I think it was after though. But you could tell how scared these people were. It's just sad to listen to. And I think I told you guys this before when I was talking about it on my last live, but I'm going to tell you guys this again. Because just in case, I know y'all are pretty smart, but when you're in a weird situation, you don't really know how you're going to react. So I'm just going to say it like this, like, if you guys are ever, or if you talk to somebody that's ever in a building where the damn thing is compromised in any kind of way, get the fuck out of the building. I don't care if they say go back to your freaking apartment or office or whatever in the hell. Don't listen to that shit. I don't care if, like, because on September 11th, there were actually firefighters that were telling people in the stairwells to turn around and go back to their fucking offices. So don't listen to that shit. Like every time I see, something like these collapses happen or people are burning the fuck up or whatever, they're telling these people to stay put, or sit down and wait and get the fuck out. I don't care if you got to beat somebody up and stomp on their ass, get out of there. Because there's too many times that stay put, you're going to be okay. Oh, we're coming up to you. That type of shit has done nothing but get people killed. So, like what happened with the Grenfell Towers over in, the UK. Like that was horrible. They had told people that their apartments were fireproof, but they had never accounted for the fact that the fire was going to fucking go up and down the outside of the building and in the middle of it. So, just get out. That's random, but I'm just telling you guys, just in case. Because sometimes when you're in a really weird situation like that, uh it might not make sense, but if you guys have ever been under a lot of pressure in a weird situation kind of like that, under high stress and like not normal situation, your brain doesn't kind of work right. Like if you guys ever watched a court case and the witnesses might be off a little bit or they swear they saw the person but it wasn't the right person or something, your brain doesn't really, it doesn't compute because it's not normal. It can't process it that quick. It can't process it as quickly as things are happening. That's why if you hear people say that they found a body, they usually think it's a mannequin because your brain can't process the shit until everything kind of slows down. Oh, there was a lady on those calls too that she made a report that the pool area was collapsing into some sort of sinkhole. But that was after the collapse because she had said that the building was gone. But she did mention some sort of sinkhole, but I still think it was the concrete pillars. I think those gave way. The There might only been one, I can't remember. But there was one call to you guys where the caller was trying to say that to hurry up and get there and help people because there were people yelling for help in the debris. Like that was heartbreaking. I don't know, like I said, if you get triggered, don't listen to it because it's hard to listen to. Oh, let's see, what else? What else? Oh, yes. Let's talk about this shit. If you guys didn't think it couldn't go from bad to worse or super fucked up, it can because we're in Florida. So with everything going on with these poor survivors of the families that have passed away or your kids passed away and all the shit these people are going to and they have to worry about and all this other shit, right? Uh Only in Florida would you have people like this that are trying to steal the fucking identity of the people that have died in the collapse. And yeah, you heard me right. There are actually scammers out there that are taking the names and social security numbers of the victims and trying to use their identity. There was a sheriff that ended up making a statement and he was promising to find out like who the people are that are doing it. He was also telling the surviving family members to check their loved one's credit and make sure that nothing's being done on their credit. And that's crazy. Um, that is crazy. I mean, people using deceased people's information is nothing new, right? But what kind of heartless piece of shit do you have to be to do that? Like, you really do. Um, like, who thinks of shit like that? Like, you find this big thing happens, and you're like, ooh, you know what we should do? Scam these dead people like that. What the hell? And to do it so quickly, like, that shit's crazy. I don't know how people sleep at night doing that shit. Um, and then when they get caught, they're all butthurt. But I feel bad for all those people. I can't imagine losing family members and then having to ID them in the shape that they're in, and then on top of that, having to check their freaking credit. Like, come on. Let's see, what else do I want to tell you guys about? Let me see. Let me see. Like I said, I do want to kind of find. I'll make a random video of it if you guys are interested, so you can click and just watch it if you want to, if I can find it, because I wasn't able to find it for this, but um, somebody was putting together the pictures and the names of all the victims and everything, and I'll try to find that so I can post it so you guys can see it. Um, let's see. Oh, and I do want you guys too to put in the comments what you guys think about why you think it collapsed and everything, because like I said, I think it was just the shitty repairs that they hadn't done. There were no orders, by the way, that were active to have repairs made at all. But then again, that report that was done in 2018, the inspector that came, there was no warning, of a collapse. Like, he didn't write that inspection up and say, like, look, if you don't fix this shit within a year or two, the whole building's coming down. He didn't say that. So I get why they weren't on top of it, but it was written in there to get it done in a timely fashion. So you would think a timely fashion is a year or two, but maybe people don't, have common interpretation like we do. I don't know. But they were literally arguing over who was going to pay for it, how many, if you had a one bedroom, were you going to pay this? If you had a three bedroom, were you going to pay this? That's what was stalling these repairs, because this homeowners board couldn't, get their thumbs out of their ass, and it wasn't decided on. And because, those repairs didn't happen, and much of the concrete that needed it to was in the car garage, which was underneath everything. And also there was that leak, or there was something to do with the waterproofing around the pool. Like, the pool has a big thing to do with it. The pool was not waterproof the right way, I guess. And so the water was just rolling, down down into the garage. And like I think I told you guys before, in Florida, one of the reasons why we do not have garages, you do not see a bunch of you'll see high rises, but you don't see that many. Like, up north, you've got 2, 3 story houses everywhere. You don't see that here. Everything's one story. Because the ground is so soft. Um, it's just, that it's just not safe to build like that. So I don't know. Hopefully they end up redoing the, what would you call them? Qualifications? Something like that. Hopefully they redo, the every 40 years the building needs to be revamped or looked at or inspected, or they need to make it like every 20 years or something like that. So hopefully they change the laws for that at least. Oh, that's another thing too. If you guys look at it, the pool was in the back, like I told you earlier, and that's why if you look at the collapse, you can kind of see the middle part go down first, and that would have been exactly where the pool would have been, having the water come into the middle of the car garage, and it would have been draining right there. That would have fell in first, that middle part, and then that right side would have just came after it. Um, like I said, honestly, I think it just was them not getting the freaking repairs done. Ooh, that's something that I found out. I got to talk to you guys, right? Okay. Um, Let me see. How do I want to start this? Okay. It's alleged, okay, that the only reason The other side of the condo stayed up the way it did, not only because it was on that little piece of flimsy concrete, but when they were designed, right, the designer guy went against policy and actually did a no-no to get the condos built quicker. What he did was he went against building regulations to attach both sides of those buildings to the elevator. The elevator is in the middle of these two sections of those condos. So they ended up building both sides without attaching them to each other, which is actual, it's like a building regulation, like you have to do that. Um, you know, you're supposed to basically, I don't know, I guess in a lot of buildings they put the elevator in the middle. So you're supposed to have your elevator shaft, how many elevators you have. Then you have your stairwells on the outside of the buildings. Well, you know what I mean, on the outer edge, not the actual outside. Then you attach how many ever sections of apartments you're going to have to the elevator. Like your elevator, your middle is kind of like your base, like your your I can't think of the damn word. Like what you're going to build on. That's like the heart of the building. So luckily, with the designer getting, not listening to the builder's regulations and going against policy, I don't know how he got away with it, but he did. That was back in the 80s, 83 or 84, I think. But with him going against the rules and not attaching the left side of the apartments to the right side of the apartments, that's why the left side did not fall. If they would have been attached to each other, the whole building would have came down. So luckily it didn't come down. So that's a good thing. Like I said, it was one of those things where he went against the rules, but it ended up working in a good way for those people. So that's good, because if that whole building would have went down, that would have been horrible on top of horrible. Oh, and by the way, you guys, last time I did the live on the collapse, I know Foxy came in, so if she watches this or she's here, she had asked me about the McCage suicide and a correlation between him and the collapse, and I'm still going to work on that for her. You guys know how I am. I like to wait and let, like, information leak out and people to talk about it and stuff like that, so I can get like a lot of information and then be able to see what's truth and what's false. So I am still going to work on that for her. And let's see. Ooh, by the way, in Florida, ever since the collapse happened, they have an actual sister building, I think 2 buildings away, that was built by the same designer, the same year, all this and that. They actually evacuated people out of there while they checked it, and allegedly it's fine. But a lot of civilian people like you or me and normal people are going around in all the buildings everywhere, like West Palm, Miami, Fort Myers, wherever, Orlando. They're going to all these buildings, even if they don't live there, and they're making videos of the car garages that are under these high rises, and like they don't give a shit. Like there's one guy going around like doing this to a lot of different places. He doesn't even live in one, but he's recording them, and he's showing like all the breaks in the concrete that he sees. There's water leaks everywhere. Ooh, oh my god, I'm so glad I thought about this, because okay, in Surfside, allegedly, in the garage, okay, the video that I have in my description where the woman took the video who was going to buy the condo, right, a couple of years ago, she videos the garage. You can see the fucking water leaking and shit 2 years ago in the garage. That shit doesn't look safe at all. But you figure you're on the ocean, you're going to get, like, what do you call it, mist and water vapor and shit like that. But they actually had rain gutters that would catch the fucking water and take it over somewhere, so it wouldn't be like on your car, or it wouldn't be dripping on your forehead when you were walking to the elevator or whatever. So they knew enough, and this would have been the homeowners association, because everybody else just kind of lives there. Maybe that's who's going to be sued, but the people that were on the board, because they actually knew enough to put up these fucking rain gutters to divert enough water to go to a different section so the other people that lived there wouldn't see it. So yeah, that was something I found out. I actually found out about that today. Um, but back to the guy. But there's a lot of people going around checking out different high-rise buildings because of what happened with Surfside. And I think this is going to be like a catch-22 because damn near every building that people are going in, they're finding cracks. They're finding, maybe a little leak here and there. But just because there's one teeny crack, like on the outside of a sidewalk, doesn't mean the whole building should be redone. You know what I mean? When you've got all that weight on concrete, it's gonna have a crack here and there, especially if you're on the coast. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see how that turns out. But I think people do need to make a stink about that, though. I mean, you got to learn from shit like this. Like I said, they need to redo the rules down here to where maybe every 20 years your building needs to be checked. And if the inspector recommends that concrete needs to be fixed, that it has to be done, I don't know, depending on how dire it is, it has to be done with like a year. And if not, then I'm shutting your whole fucking building down type of shit. You know what I mean? Like, you guys, have you ever had a house built? If you don't have the right permits and shit, they will shut your shit down. Like, construction, everybody got to get the fuck off the lot. Like, they need to start doing that with these people that have money, like, period, point blank. But that's about all the shit I got on the build, y'all. I'm glad to be done with that. That's depressing as hell. I'd like to move on. I've got a really interesting story to tell you guys. I'll probably do it. It'll be tomorrow or Saturday. I don't want to give it away, but it's really, really good. You guys are gonna like it. And like I said, sorry I was away for a little bit, but hopefully that's done. Hopefully, like I said, without boring you guys or giving you too much information, everything will be okay with my heart and all that, and I won't have to go through anything that I didn't already go through. Testing for your heart is some bullshit. I'm gonna tell you guys that. My God, they do some weird shit to you. Weird, weird things. But like I said, you got to stay on top of it because that's what keeps you alive. But anyway, hopefully you guys found all that information. Like I said, I tried to answer everybody's questions because a lot of people had questions on the last live that I did. And I'll be, like I said, looking into, I found out some information already. I'm just not finished with it about the man that Foxy wanted to know about with his suicide and if it was a correlation. So I'm trying to look at it very unbiased, where I don't already have like it didn't have a correlation type of mind. I'm trying to go in and look at it from, like maybe what if type of thing, because I don't want to do a show and be biased one way or the other. So hopefully she'll like what I put together. But like I said, I'll be doing another one tomorrow, Saturday. You guys will see the thumbnail and everything. And I'm glad to be back. I missed everybody. I did. I'm glad to be back. So I hope everybody had a good time on their evening, all the time I was gone. Like I said, when I wasn't too tired after all the tests I was having done and everything, I was popping in to YouTube here and there, but have the energy for it, honestly, at all. But shout out to everybody that came by. Thank you very much. Love you all to death. And I hope everybody has a good evening. Tomorrow's Friday, y'all. Oot oot. But like I said, I hope everybody has a good evening. And I will see you guys soon. I'm not going to put down the link just because I'm exhausted after all that depressing shit. Ooh, oh God, I keep wanting to tell on myself because I've got this good, Lady Fresh is going to get a crack up out of like, out of this one show I'm going to do, just the title alone. But, I'm going to get off of here, you guys. Have a good evening. And I missed you all. And I will talk to you soon, okay? Bye, guys.